Gene Chizik knows what it's like to see your program fall apart in front of you. Gene Chizik knows what it's like to see boosters come after you. Gene Chizik's been there before. And when he talks about Dan Mullen right now, he's speaking from experience. And this is what Gene Chizik had to say over the weekend about the Gators as they get ready to take on number one Georgia Bulldogs in Jacksonville. We'll have all the coverage for you over on dogpost.com. Make sure you're going over there today. This is what Gene Chizik said on SEC. I think it's SEC Inside, whatever the SEC Nation show is, right after all the shows off, the football games go off. He says Dan Mullen's number one job right now is to keep the wheels on the track. It's going to be tough for them to beat Georgia right now. Florida's defense has got to get better. Dan Mullen's number one job right now is to keep these wheels on the track. Now, if you don't know who Gene Chizik is, that's okay. He won the national championship with Cam Newton at Auburn in 2010. If you're too young and you're watching this, I get it. If you've just forgotten that Gene Chizik was a head coach and thought he was a defensive coordinator all the time, he is excellent as an analyst for SEC Nation. They do a hell of a job wrapping up these games. They watch the games. This is a total endorsement of that program. An unpaid endorsement, easy enough for me to say. But Gene Chizik was run out of town 2 years after winning the national championship, just the same way that Easy Ed Orgeron is getting run out of town at LSU. So he knows what's happening. He can hear it. He was a coach at Miami, if I'm not mistaken, and if nothing else, he's been a coach in this league long enough to know that when the trouble starts, you better get control of it. And right now in Florida, there's a lot of issues. And I've talked about that a lot this week. But I think one thing is right now, Dan Mullen, the folks that cover the Gators can smell blood in the water. The fans are furious. The same way the Clemson fans are furious right now. And unlike Clemson, Dabo Swinney has 2 national championships to lean on, although those seem decades ago now. And his arch rival isn't making a run for the national championship right now. They're losing by 40 to Texas A&M on the road in the third quarter. So the situations aren't the same. There's also a twinge of, is Florida State going to become good all of a sudden quicker than we are? Because right now the Noles are 3-4. They play Clemson this coming week, and the Gators are 4-3. Losing to Alabama late is not beating Alabama. Losing to Kentucky when you got better players and twice in the last 4 years when nobody at Florida had lost to the Cats for decades. That's just not okay with Florida people, understandably. So there's a lot, and Todd Grantham has worn out his welcome in Gainesville, and it was worn out coming into this season. But after the LSU game, he completely wore it out totally. And listen, there's got to be some reality-based stuff here. Florida's defense has performed well this season. If you look at their, what they've done, they've played well. But then the LSU game happened, and that was just a total punch in the face. I think Florida fans thought that the Gators would go down to LSU, win that game. They'd probably lose to the Dogs, but then they could kind of rescue it, be 9-3, possibly play in a New Year's Six bowl. They weren't going to play in the SEC championship as of the Kentucky game. So there was just like, hey, all right, we'll take a gentleman's 9-3. Came close against Alabama and lost. Came close to, lost to Georgia. That's understandable. Kentucky's pretty good, so we're not going to make any real statements about that. There's all sorts of stuff that you can just say, hey, it's fine. We're going the right direction. But now, man, after that Kentucky loss and now the LSU loss, it's just not where you want to be if you're Dan Mullen. And this past Wednesday on the SEC teleconference, you could see the media was pointed right at Dan Mullen, ready to attack because they had heard this enough, and they hear it from fans. See, y'all don't think that we hear the fans. We do, and the upset in the program right now, which was something that Chris Doering talked about over the weekend, former Florida wide receiver, saying there's a lot of negativity in the program right now. That's directed at Dan Mullen. And what's happened is he's not made a move on Todd Grantham. People thought that that would happen after last season. Didn't happen. Cannot make a decision on a quarterback. Now his quarterback selections outside of Dak Prescott aren't looking so hot. Why did it take him so long to go with Kyle Trask over Felipe Franks? And now all of a sudden you got the same thing here with Emory and Richardson. They're furious about that. There's a ton of frustration. And then, also, you just gave this guy an extension and a raise after a 4-loss season. This is certainly looking like a 4-loss season. I have great respect for Florida's athletic department. They're really one of the best ones, but they missed that one. Like, it was not the time to give him a raise because there was or an extension. There was no real market for Dan Mullen after this season. I mean, if the Jets had come calling like we heard, then he'd have left. They weren't there. The Gators just gave him a little bit extra money. I'm not sure why. It makes them look bad. So the other thing too, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to talk about, but there's a lot of concern about recruiting at Florida. I mean, Paul Feinbaum touched on this last week. And we know Dan Mullen doesn't recruit like Kirby Smart. No, he doesn't. So that leaves it all up to development, which Kirby Smart and company do a pretty good job of that. Robert Beal didn't exist a year ago. Ahmed Speed, Chris Smith, Justin Schaefer, these were not high-level guys. Stetson Bennett, Ladd McConkey, there's A.D. Mitchell, there's guys they're developing. The Gators, you can't develop your whole roster. Some of them got to just be straight-up beasts coming out. And Florida doesn't have that right now. And we can't know what will happen on Saturday. We've seen double-digit dogs win this game about once every 15 years. So it's not common. And it's hard to put a finger on just what sort of actual trouble Dan Mullen's in. I don't think he's actually in trouble at all. I think they'll lose to Georgia and probably win their last 4 games. But there's no game on the last 4. This is very similar to 2018 with Georgia, or the 14 team with Georgia, where there wasn't anything to gain at the end of the season. Very specifically the 8 team, they were out of the SEC East Championship race when they lost in Jacksonville. Then they had to survive with Auburn and Kentucky, and they lost to Tech. The tables would turn on Mark Richt pretty quick after that season, and to follow it up with the 2009 season, 2010 season. It seems like he was in trouble to some degree from that point forward. But then again, whenever you've been anywhere for a while, you're always on the hot seat, so to speak. But it will depend on how Florida plays in terms of, I think, how much trouble Dan Mullen's in. If they get a win, I think, to me, he's not Dennis Felton, but Dennis came to mind because you could have killed him off, but you let him play that SEC title championship game and win the title in that tournament. You don't want that if you're Florida. I think Florida's a little bit stuck right now. They've got a coach who's a really good coach. The problem is the other guy in his division is a straight-up killer, a total shark. And if you get past that guy, you're going to need the game of your life to beat Alabama with the players Florida has right now. They just don't have the players. I'm not sure I thought I would ever say that, but look at their quarterbacks. If Richardson's your guy, he's not developed. Emory Jones can't be your quarterback moving forward. He's been a particular type of quarterback for a long time, and that's not the starting type. So to me, this Florida team, it's understandable that there's some issues right now with Florida. They do not have some of the players they need to win the conference, to win the division. They do have the players to beat Kentucky. They do have the players to beat LSU. If they didn't, they wouldn't be going down the wire with Alabama. Dan Mullen's number one job right now is to keep these wheels on the track, said Gene Chizik, who would know about losing the train off the tracks. And he never got it back, and he never got a chance to be a head coach again. I don't think that will happen with Dan Mullen. I think there's things that he can do. And we got a long way to go before this game and a full week. But Florida needs to play well. And they're going up against the one team that you probably don't want to play against if you need to play well, because Georgia will make you look stupid. And that's with all of Dan Mullen's abilities, because he can call plays for sure, and he's a very good game day coach. But this is not a great time right now. Florida, hey, they can turn it around right now with a win. We'll see if that happens. I'm skeptical. We'll see you over on the website, dogpost.com.